Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. It's a new start of the week, but we're going to start it off great for you, Pewter people, everyone watching and listening to this. It might be Monday, but we're going to get you through this week because we have a ton of awesome Buccaneers content coming up, and we're starting you off right. We know that the roster is set, but there's still a little bit more that the Bucs can add to this team. Maybe not as an immediate starter, but as an important impact depth player. And we will get into all of that with the additional free agents that the Bucs could sign. I'm your host, Matt Matera, and joined with me is none other than the face that runs the place, SR Scott Reynolds. Scott, how are you on this Monday afternoon?
Matt, I'm doing great, and the reason I'm doing great is because I'm powered by Celsius. We'll get into Celsius just a second, but this is Celsius number 2.
The original.
I've doubled up on
original
orange
drink,
today.
yeah.
This
Nice.
is like number 2. I had the first one around 5:30, getting ready to go for a workout, so I'm going to hit number 2. I don't drink 2 Celsius every day, and it's not that I even need it because the first one worked. I'm just getting ready to go for a workout, and what I've noticed is whenever I'm on the elliptical or the treadmill, whatever. When I have to going in me, I beat my own personal times. So I'm kind of going for, a little personal milestone today, and Celsius will help guide me along my fitness journey.
I'm jealous. I ran out of. I'm not at my usual place of location right now, so I brought Celsius with me. However, I have run out, so I'm sad because I don't have Celsius.
Yes.
Which, to everyone listening and watching, make sure you go out and get Celsius, whether it's at your local bodega.
I'll have another one for
station.
you, Matt. How about that?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Have one in spirit for me. Yeah, chug it. Or go on to Amazon.com, get a bulk package sent right to your front door. Celsius, all the flavors are fantastic. There's none of that crash or the jitters that you get from after having an energy drink, which cannot be taken for granted because you try other energy drinks and that's just the case. And
that's right.
So you don't get that. You get all the benefits if you want to go work out, if you're trying to get through a work day. You get all of those benefits with Celsius. And the taste is second to none. It's a better tasting energy drink than any other competitor on the market. I will put Celsius, just taste alone, up against anyone else.
I agree.
The orange tastes like orange.
Preaching the choir, man. I love it.
The peach vibe tastes like peach vibe. The snozberries taste like snozberry. That's a Willy Wonka reference for everyone.
Okay.
There's the Arctic flavor is fantastic as
Arctic
well, too.
vibe, yeah.
Exactly. So you can't go wrong when you're drinking Celsius. And they also got power bars too, and they don't break in your hand. They don't.
You're talking about the fast energy, the fast protein bars, which you're talking about, Matt. Yes.
Yes, I am.
The fast protein bars, what's great about them is, and we appreciate that Mark's main channel, hit the like button, of course. What we appreciate about the fast protein bars is it comes in 2 delicious flavors, right? That's the white chocolate cookies and cream and the salted peanut caramel crunch. And maybe the best part about that right now is they're on sale, $5 off. So you can do 5 fast lane is the promo code on Amazon. You'll get a 12-pack of your favorite flavor. I would get both because they're both my favorite flavors for $5 off each one on Amazon. And as Matt was saying, you can click on our website, pewterreport.com, to check out those Celsius banners and try the new Arctic vibe. Let us know what you think. I love the tropical vibe, love the peach vibe, and the Arctic vibe. I'm vibing with all of them. So check out those banners on pewterreport.com. They'll take you to where you can buy Celsius direct, or you can just go to amazon.com, do the subscribe, and save those. Send them right to your house, and you'll save lots of money. Matt, this is going to be a big week for Buccaneer fans because the draft is over, but the schedule comes out this week, right? And it's kind of funny because the schedule used to come out before the draft. And I think the NFL did the wise move because when you're talking about drafting first-round quarterbacks, that's always a big thing. Not so much this year with Kenny Pickett and John's Pittsburgh Steelers, right, being the only one. But what it does allow the league to do is take a look at some of these impactful rookies and maybe incorporate them into the schedule, kind of create some better marquee matchups after the draft. And I'm all in favor of that. But the time is here. The schedule is kind of being leaked out on purpose by the networks this week. And we'll have the full schedule on Thursday. We're doing a Thursday night show, probably at 7:30. Time to be exact on that. But we'll be doing a show. We'll have shows this week, today and tomorrow. both at 4:00. Obviously, we're here. It's 4:00. Tomorrow's show, we're going to be talking to the offensive coaches at the team's headquarters at the Advent Health Training Center. So we're going to have plenty of interviews from them. Matt, you're going to have some great videos to share in tomorrow's Pewter Report podcast, so don't miss it. And that'll be at 4:00. We will not have a podcast on Wednesday. We will, however, have a podcast on Thursday night during the schedule release, where we'll be on talking about the games, the actual games, who they're playing, when, what time, and how many primetime games, etc. Then we're going to have a special Friday night podcast, also at 7:30, where we're going to be talking about the first day of the Bucs rookie minicamp that'll be at the team's facility that afternoon. So don't miss that on Friday. And then we'll have the recap of the entire Bucs rookie minicamp on Monday. So that's the schedule this week. Today, Tuesday at 4, Thursday and Friday night, 7:30 starts Eastern time. And then we'll have the weekend off, and you'll see us again next Monday.
That's right. We are going prime time towards the end of the week, and we are loaded with content this week, which I think is a lot of fun because we're in the off season, and we're definitely at the point where, there's no more drama of top tier free agency or who the Bucs are going to get in the draft, because that's already gone down. So now we got our sights set on Bucs rookie minicamp coming up. As you just mentioned, we're talking to the offensive coordinator, the offensive coaches tomorrow, including offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich. So there's a lot to get into as well. And that Bucs schedule release, it was very fun when we did the podcast last year.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucs are going to be competitive and good anyway, but for the rest of the teams too that even don't have a chance, it's that hope springs eternal type of thing. We actually have a great article. JC Allen wrote it earlier today, predicting who's going to be the home opener. I just put it in the chat. You could see it. You'll see Pewter Report's name come up, and you can click on the link there. But we gave our predictions for who the Bucs are going to open up their season against. Scott, I believe you said on the road against Dallas, which would be a repeat of the home. Well, it was the home opener for the Bucs, but the season opener last year when the Bucs were defending
Thursday
champs.
night football,
they played, it was a Thursday night game. So you have this for Monday Night Football this year, I believe.
Yeah, I almost wanted to change my pick because I almost think now that the Bucs are going to get the Thanksgiving game in Dallas.
Oh, I would like that. I would like that a lot.
I'm going to be. I plan on being in like a turkey coma.
Yeah.
That afternoon on my couch, passed out asleep. But if I have to work, then I will. I'll just have to I'll probably have to chug 3 Celsius that day to combat all of the turkey. Was it tryptophan? That's the drug, right? In turkey?
Yeah.
Tryptophan?
Tryptophan or tryptophil, something like
whatever.
that. Yeah, I think
something like that. You go on a turkey trip, right? And I know I do. I mean, you throw in that plus mashed potatoes and gravy, you carb out, and I'm out. So it will probably be my first 3rd Celsius day on Thanksgiving if the Bucs have to play the Cowboys. And they did many, many moons ago. They lost to the Tony Romo Cowboys back in the day. I remember Mike Allstott. And this is back in the early 2000s, and under John Gruden, they played the Bucs, or the Bucs played in Dallas on Thanksgiving. So it's happened before. I just wonder if the league doesn't just try to get that marquee matchup, right? Tom Brady and the Buccaneers and the Cowboys on Thursday night, Thanksgiving. So, and there's also a Thursday night game too. So even if the Bucs don't play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving in Dallas, the Bucs could still be in play for the triple header, that Thursday night game. So that's another thing to keep in mind. I'm hoping against that, just selfishly speaking, but I think it's safe to say the Bucs are going to get 5 primetime games this year, Matt. Plus, they also get the bonus standalone game when they play
the
probably
Seahawks.
Early in the morning on November 13th against Seattle in Munich.
Yeah, I believe it's a 10:30 a.m. game or 9:30, which it's got to be tough for the Seahawks fans on the West Coast because you got to get up. You got to get up at 6:30 to watch your team get, for Bucs fans, hopefully dismantled by the Bucs. I actually went for my season opener prediction. I'm trying to hit a home run off the bat. Bucs versus Packers, Sunday Night Football, Brady versus Rodgers. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different Packers team now that they traded Devontae Adams. Obviously, they got Tampa local Christian Watson, which Casey Hudson is not too happy about because she wanted Casey Hudson in Tampa. I think a lot of us wanted Christian Watson in Tampa as well too. But I just think, you got the fanfare, the marquee matchup. two future Hall of Fame quarterbacks, the greatest of all time, versus some people say is the best quarterback currently in the league. That can be up for debate, but nonetheless,
Right.
there's star power through the roof, and I think it would make for a great Sunday night football game to start the season.
Yeah. And I'm hopeful to be going to Germany this year. That's kind of in the plans. We're still talking about it. I know in 2019, myself, the late, great Mark Cook, and Cliff Welch, our photographer, went to the London game, which was awesome up until kickoff. Well, actually, kickoff was fine. It was with the first offensive play where Jameis Winston threw, surprise, an interception right on the first play of the game to Mike Evans, the first of 5 interceptions that game. I remember walking, it was almost like a 2-mile hike from where we were positioned in the stadium in London.
Oh, wow.
All the way, you have to go down and then around the whole concourse to get to where the locker rooms were. I mean, it literally, usually like when you leave the press box at Raymond James Stadium, it takes you no more than 5 minutes, even if you're waiting for the elevator, to get downstairs where the locker room is. It's just really quick. This was literally about at least 10 minutes, if not 15, to get all the way down to the bowels of the stadium. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, yeah.
Yeah.
And by the time we left, Jameis had thrown 3 interceptions. This is in the fourth quarter. It's when they tell you to leave and get down there by the end of the game. And then he threw, by the time we got down there, he had thrown 4 interceptions. And Mark, actually it wasn't Mark, it was Rick Stroud, who I was standing there next to, and I said, dude, Jameis has thrown 4 picks today. And he said, 4? Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? I said, no, 4. And then all of a sudden we were informed as we're waiting for the game to be over that he threw an interception like on the last play or second last play of the game. That was number 5. So, yeah, Pewter Report will be represented there. It could be Matt and I, which would be a problem because there's a lot of beer, Matt, in Germany. And I know you and I have a fondness for beer. And so it does have to be a working business trip. But at the same time, Mark and I partook in plenty of tasty alcoholic beverages. And that's where I got kind of addicted to to Fuller's London Pride. That's a really good beer over there. So I'm anxious to try some German beer, some really good German beer. I'm sure you are too, Matt.
Oh, I'm very excited. I think it's great for the NFL. I know not a lot of teams always love traveling overseas because it messes a lot with your everyday routine. But I also think it's going to be a very historic moment. The Bucs have played overseas, but it's the first ever game in Germany.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a fun experience for everyone that's able to go. And you have the bye week next week too, so it's one game, you can focus on it, and then you can get back to your regular routine.
And you can recover from drinking all the beer.
You can, you can sleep on the
jet lag.
You can sleep on the plane ride home.
Yeah.
It's so funny too, just real quick about, again, the London game. So Pewter Report, while you and Mark and Cliff were at the game in London, we also hosted a watch party as well too, and had a great turnout. Very early in the morning. It was myself, Trevor Sickma, and Taylor Jenkins, and everyone was buzzing. Like, people were loud, having a great time.
Right.
And then the Bucs offense went on the field. James throws a pick on the first play. And
damn it, Jameis. Gotta ruin everything.
You could hear a pin drop at the place that we were at. It just, the mood instantly changed like so quickly. All because of the interception, and then everything was downhill. So it was such a fun time up until that game. And then everything changed. But it is what it is. Things got better for the Bucs in a couple of years.
The exciting thing is the Buccaneers have really struggled mightily, right, in international games. They're 0 for 3 in all 3 London games. The good news is they're saying, screw you, England. We're going to a different country, and we're gonna try our luck over in Germany. Okay, where right now the Buccaneers are undefeated in Germany. They've yet to win a game, but they've yet to lose a game too. So, and Tom Brady, Matt, is undefeated in international games. So something's got to give, right? It's like the Bucs continue to lose overseas, and Tom Brady gets sucked into the murkiness of that in Buccaneer history, or Tom Brady, like Moses, leads the Buccaneers to the promised land to finally get a win over in Europe. So something's got to give. I'm excited
Plus,
about that.
he's trying to add another win, another country to his resume in
That's
terms of
right.
wins, because he won in the States, he won in England, and I believe he won a game in Mexico. I think the Patriots played there and he won a game. So now he could add Germany to the list.
Yeah, he's international, man. Move over Pitbull. He's Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah.
It's
That's
true.
That's an A+ reference right there.
I love
absolutely love that. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, folks. So the good news is it's a Monday, and we're kind of going to get back to this tradition here now that we've kind of put all the draft stuff behind us. And in about 4 minutes, we're going to do roll call. We're going to do roll call at 4:20 every Monday, right? So either Matt or I will talk. I'll talk today, Matt. You can put up all of the people from wherever they are. So that's going to be your cue. At 4:20, we want to find out where you're listening or watching from. So give us where you're located, right? Whether it's here in the state of Florida, whether it's here in America, whether it's around the world. Every Monday, when you join us here on the Pewter Report podcast, we're going to have roll call at 4:20. So that's going to be the cool thing. So in about 3 minutes now, I'm going to continue to talk, and Matt will be putting up exactly where you're from. We want to get as many people in here in our roll call as we can in about a minute or two. So, and then we'll kind of get back to some Buccaneer news. So, one of the things too that's interesting about today's show is we're going to be talking about the depth and the free agents that the Buccaneers could be looking for, right? JC Allen has an article on pewterreport.com that listed a couple of those, and that came out, I think, yesterday. And so we'll kind of be talking about those. I've seen some of the names people are talking about in here in terms of Akeem Hicks, who I'm a big fan of. I saw him beat the Buccaneers a couple times back in the day. He's only 32. He can still play. He's a big dude. Kind of reminds me of a Calais Campbell, where he's older, but he can still play, almost kind of like Ndamukong Suh. And so we'll talk about Ndamukong Suh and Logan Hall a little bit too, and just kind of what's going on there. And then, I think there's other positions too. Defensive line, edge. I'm a big Justin Houston fan. And I think as a designated pass rusher, he could be a guy that could come in and maybe help out in some pass rush situations, right? There was a question in today's mailbag about this as well, about Hicks and about Jadeveon Clowney coming in. So that's why we wanted to do the show today, because it's kind of like, okay, the draft's over. We filled some needs. There's still a couple pieces that the Bucs need to add. Where they're going to be and who's going to fill them, right? And so I think with Jadeveon Clowney, the issue there is he's going to command too much money than the Bucs want to pay, right? And he's going to probably want to start, right?
Well, that's what I was thinking with Clowney. Like, would he be great for the Bucs? Absolutely, 100%. But Tampa Bay also, obviously, they have Shaq and they have Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, and they're not going to stunt his growth again, too. And Clowney is in this situation every single year, where he's almost the last big name or the last big piece to the puzzle that's still available, like right around just before when training camp gets started. Right. So for me, it's like, well, if he's still going to hold down and he's going to want that more money, the Bucs still need to allocate some of those dollars to get Gronk back, or if they want to bring in another veteran. So as much as I would really like Clowney, I think he's going to be too expensive, but it makes sense. He's one of the top edge rushers that are still on the board.
I still think with him, and I think he's 29, it's still going to be a matter of playing time, right? Yes. I think that's kind of the prohibitive thing about bringing Jason Pierre-Paul back is he's an alpha. He's used to playing as much as 90% of the snaps when he's healthy. I don't think his mentality, and I think he's a team first guy, but here's a roll call. Let's go, folks.
Yeah, let's get the roll call going, everybody. Didn't want to cut you off.
No.
Roll call. Let's go.
But I think that with someone like Jason Pierre-Paul, it's difficult because you're an alpha personality. You're used to starting and playing. And how well can you take a majorly reduced role, really the role of like a designated pass rusher? And that's why I think a player like Justin Houston, who's 33, still has a little bit of gas left in the tank, not for full-time snaps, but for playing, 20, 25% of the snaps. And he's also an experienced guy that can come in case there's an injury to Shaq Barrett, in case there's an injury to Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, where all of a sudden you have to start either JTS and Shaq Barrett and Anthony Nelson, and then need somebody to come off the bench that has more experience than Cam Gill. So to me, I think that's kind of what they're looking for, is somebody like a Steve McClendon, right? Somebody that can come in, that has some experience, that's a little long in the tooth, that is fine playing a limited number of snaps and really kind of help in that regards. So that's why the JPPs, the Jadeveon Clowneys, I don't think that's the case. Look for players that are getting up there in age that also want to come in and maybe get a Super Bowl ring on the way out the door, but would not want to come in and impede the opportunity for JTS to get full-time reps as a starter. And of course, Shaq Barrett, your $17 million man. So I think that's where I stand on that. While Matt's finishing up with roll call here, we got about another minute of that. The thing too with James Bradberry, we're going to do a story about it on pewterreport.com. It's interesting, right? Because Bradberry played in Carolina. He had a lot of great battles with Mike Evans. There's a lot of mutual respect there. And Matt, I think the thing with Bradberry that's interesting is if the Giants eat a bunch of his salary, right, the Bucs can pick him up for, for a little bit less than what he's been commanding. But again, the problem is just where does he play? And I don't see them going after a guy like Bradberry who would be a starter. And listen, he would be a fine addition to the team from a talent standpoint. But just like we learned last week, Matt, in the defensive coaches press conference, it seems like this team wants to start Sean Murphy-Bunting, former second-round pick, Mike Edwards, former third-round pick, at safety and nickel corner. I'm talking about Edwards at safety, strong safety, and SMB at nickel corner, because they've got some premium draft picks invested in these guys. Edwards has never been a full-time guy. Can he play that role on a full-time basis? Can he play strong safety? Can Sean Murphy-Bunting stay healthy? Can he get interceptions anytime other than January? And so I think that the Tampa Bay wants to give those guys a shot at starting. Logan Ryan's the safety net at nickel corner and also at free safety. He's also, you're looking at Keanu Reeves as the safety net at strong safety. And I wouldn't be surprised ultimately if Logan Ryan and Keanu Neal end up starting this year. But doesn't it seem like that type of mentality right now would preclude them from signing a James Bradberry, knowing that they want to see how Jamel Dean does, see how Sean Murphy-Bunting does, and then, of course, Mike Edwards at safety in these contract years?
Yeah, you absolutely hit the nail on the head, where the Bucs want to go in full throttle, head first, with Mike Edwards starting a strong safety and have Sean Murphy-Bunting in the slot as that nickel corner. But they already have the safety nets in place, like you said, with Keanu Neal going at safety, and Logan Ryan can mix around a little bit, go with the safety, and go with slot as well too. Where it's tough because you do have to find those answers, but I think we're also in the win now mode where this is your last season with Tom Brady, and we talked about this before. Why not exhaust every single option that you could possibly have? And with Bradberry, oh man, it would just be great to envision Carlton Davis on one side, Bradberry on the other. This is a corner that the Bucs are very familiar with.
Oh yeah,
Bradberry has played very well against Mike Evans, so I'm sure they would love to have Bradberry on their own team and not have to worry about playing him. Depending, obviously, he's not going to be with the Giants anymore or anything like that. But I just think too, what he brings, like he had 4 interceptions last season. What have we talked about? Carlton Davis, he's an all-pro, except for that he can't come down with those interceptions.
Jamel Dean,
Mike Edwards,
one pick, right?
Jamel Dean, 1 pick. Sean Murphy-Bunting only gets his interceptions in the playoffs. So I think the Bucs could really use a top guy that can make up for a lot of those dropped interceptions that we've seen in the past. You bring in Bradberry, he's going to get those turnovers for you. I really do think, though, and obviously a lot of it depends on the contract, and it seems like Bradberry,
I think the Chiefs are going to be in hot pursuit, right?
Yeah, the Chiefs could really be in it too. The other thing too is, as much as I would like Bradberry, I see the Bucs going in a situation, whether that's, and I think the top needs in terms of free agency, we're talking about the Bucs don't need anyone that they need to like start right away. Their roster is pretty much set. We're just talking about plugging in some holes that are for depth reasons. But I really have my big three on defense was defensive tackle, edge rusher, and I put cornerback in there as well too, because if something happens to Jamel Dean, then you have Zion McCollum, and you just drafted him, and eventually you want him to be a future starter.
Right.
But I'm not standing here, or sitting in this case, I'm not sitting here and saying that McCollum's going to be an instant, like, day one starter if something happens to Jamel Dean. But he does have the fit to be an outside corner, where, you have someone like Ross Cockrell is more slated to play a nickel corner position.
Yeah.
This is where I see, for anywhere on the defense, the Bucs going with a veteran guy that wants to win a championship, that will be there to really be a mentor to these guys. Like, I could see someone like Xavier Rhodes. He's 6'1". He has that fit of Bucs corners that the coaching staff really likes. He had 7 pass breakups last year, 1 interception. I believe he only missed 3 or 4 games. So relatively healthy, especially if we're talking about a backup role. So that's someone I could see more realistically signing with the Bucs. But I'm all for go for the big fish, because we're in win now
it's
mode.
Tempting, isn't it? It really is, right? I mean, I think the personnel department's like, well, we got to see about Jamel Dean, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Mike Edwards for the future. But
I get it.
But boy, it's so tempting just to load up like the Rams did, right? And get the Von Miller and get the Odell Beckham Jr. and just go for it. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. Matt, I love the fact that you started with defense first, because defense wins championships. I'm a defensive-minded guy. Todd Bowles is our defensive-minded head coach that we're covering. So it's so appropriate that you start there, and I love you for it.
I know my audience.
Of course you do. Yes. All right. So, folks, what this is the Bucs two deep depth chart as we see it. Everybody in red is a starter, and either it's a full-fledged, he's going to start guy like Shaq Barrett right there at outside linebacker, or a guy that is penciled in, even though he hasn't played it down yet in the NFL, like in Logan Hall at defensive tackle, and he's going to replace Ndamukong Suh. What you see behind all those guys is what we anticipate being the next guy up. If the name's in Pewter, like Anthony Nelson, Anthony Nelson, I think he's really developed. He came on strong down the stretch, 5 sacks last year in that third outside linebacker edge rusher role. I think if Anthony Nelson had to start for a couple games, I think that he can get the job done. There's not going to be a huge drop off in play, right? Whereas if you look at the other side of the ball, after Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, you've got Cam Gill, who's that 4th outside linebacker. He's in blue. And why are these guys in blue? Well, because you get the blues as a personnel guy. You're like, holy smokes, if we have to start this guy, man, we're singing the blues. So I wanted a contrasting color between red and pewter, and black was too close to pewter. So I just went with blue, because if these guys are playing, you're probably singing the blues. And right now, you mentioned defensive tackle, right? Logan Hall is going to be a first-time NFL starter. Mm-hmm. And right now it's Deidrin Sanat, right? I mean, without Steve McClendon, without Ndamukong Suh, there really is just a huge drop-off at that 3-technique defensive tackle position. And you have to think another move is coming. I mean, Deidrin Sanat might not even make this roster.
He's probably Sanat making the roster.
I think he's Sanat making the roster too, man. I love it. And, he's, I'd love to see Akeem Hicks here. I really would, right? I think he's a big run-stuffing guy that still has a little bit of pass-rushing juice left. I think you could get by with Akeem Hicks in that role at the 3-technique position. He can also maybe slide in. I know Rakeem Nunez-Roches is a solid nose tackle backup, but I think he could also play there. And really, because the defensive tackle, which is that 3-technique position, and the position that's called defensive end in this 3-4 scheme that Will Golston plays, Will Golston will play a 3-tech sometimes. He'll also play what's called a 3-eye or a 4-eye, which is it's outside shading in the 3 hole, which is the B gap, but it's closer to the tackle than it is to the guard. And then also too, the 4-eye is that C gap, which is in between the tackle and the tight end. So I think that's a position that Akeem Hicks could come in and really give you some coverage at the 3-tech spot, as well as that defensive end position that Will Golston plays.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about him a lot in the Monday mailbag, how much you think that he would totally be a fit. And I think he would be a player as well, too, that falls into that category of wanting to win a championship at this point. You know,
Yeah,
it's getting later in his career. He's been a versatile player that has at times been a standout, like top level player in the league at this position. So I could definitely see a fit there. One guy I was thinking of really, well, there's two guys, and they were both mentioned by JC in his article, but there's only so many defensive tackles that are available right
yeah,
now in free agency. One of them goes all the way back to when we did our Bucs battles plan. I actually had the Bucs signing him as a free agent. That was Larry Ogunjobi. I
right.
just think he falls into the category. He's coming off an injury, so that obviously has to be monitored and figured out. So could be a situation where the Bucs don't really make a move on it until right before training camp because they want to see, you know, how healthy he could really be. But
Yeah,
Ogunjobi has that fit that the Bucs were looking for before the draft in terms of he has some pass rushing ability to him.
yeah,
But I think what I like about Ogunjobi as well too is that he can do a little bit of everything as well. Like he doesn't have to just line up in one spot. He can move across the defensive line.
yeah.
He's actually struggles more as a run defender than he
True.
does as a pass rusher, which doesn't really necessarily go with what Tampa Bay does because obviously they're all about stopping the run.
Right.
But I think if we talked about this in the past, like they have enough talent that will be starting that can make up for Ogunjobi maybe struggling in that position. Another person too was
Well,
Sheldon
the
Richardson.
other thing too
Sorry,
is
go ahead.
if you're looking for like an obvious run, like first down type of defensive front, there's nothing that says you can't run, uh, Nacho out there at the 3 next to Vita Vea, and then when you
Yeah,
get into nickel rush, if you had a Logan Hall and a Larry Ogunjobi there, both rushing from the 3 tech outside of this, on the other side of the guards, opening up that A gap for a Devin White blitz or something. That's another way you can get a little creative. You can be a little unconventional in all of that, because I do think that if Logan Hall is going to struggle as a rookie, it's going to be in the run game. I think he's
yeah.
going to be better one-on-one going up against guards in the pass. And of course, Logan Hall will probably be hoping that he and his teammates around him do such a good job stuffing the run that they will get as many pass attempts as they got last year, which the Buccaneers faced more pass attempts than any other team in the league because nobody even tried to really run against them except for late in the year. You saw the Jets, the Panthers have some success against the Buccaneers running. And part of the reason why they had some success was because Ndamukong Suh, and this is part of the reason why they're not intent on bringing him back, is his lateral movement. You saw a lot of
Yeah.
those teams attack the Buccaneers defense laterally, horizontally, down the line, stretching them and making them run side to side. And that's where you saw some of those holes open up. And the Jets did a really good job running against the Buccaneers that day.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, that's naturally going to happen with first of all, the Cowboys actually deserve some credit because they set the tone with just refusing to run the ball against the Bucs. If you remember that home
They did,
opener,
yes.
they were running, first down it'd be a screen to the wide receiver or a screen to the running back or a 3-yard slant. They were like, all right, good. Like we got
Yeah.
a run play out of the way. I think
Right.
Dak definitely ended up throwing it over 50 times. Remember, he was coming off a shoulder injury
I
where it's
know.
like you kind of I know it's the NFL
Plus,
and
it
every
was
game
a
matters.
calf injury from camp, too.
Yeah, yeah, he's dealing with multiple injuries, and that's how afraid they were of running the ball against the
Yeah.
Buccaneers. So they kind of set, I don't want to say the blueprint because the Bucs obviously
Yeah.
still had a very successful year, but they set the tone of okay, we're not even going to run
Right.
the ball. But yeah, that's where it comes into play with Sue in terms of sure, he's got that mean, nasty ability, and he racked up some
Yeah.
sacks last year.
Yeah.
Did a
And you know
fine
what?
job in that department.
I really spent some time studying Sue. I know Josh Capo is going to be doing a grinding the tape on Sue. And I really spent some time last night and today studying some film on Sue, looking
Mhm.
at some of the PFF grades, which are, they're not the Holy Grail, they're not the Bible, but they can be used as a good measuring stick. And listen, Sue ended his Buccaneer career, if that was his last game against the Rams, on a high note. That was his highest graded game of the season. He was phenomenal in that game. The problem is, previous week against the Eagles, against the Jets, against the Panthers, he did not grade very well. Matter of fact, I think he ended up with like a 44, 45 grade from PFF for the season. Maybe it was 48, but it was clearly his lowest graded season in his entire NFL career. And his first year, I think he got a 69 grade in 2019. So in the eyes of PFF, when you look at all the games and his impact, it was a decline there. And I've talked to people within the organization that, I mean, we're telling you that's why they're not signing him. You can go back and look at the tape, and he's 35. He can't run like he used to, not just in, laterally in run defense, but also he just can't seal the deal and get to the quarterback like he used to. When people are saying, and I see some people in the chat, we need Gronk and Sue and JPP back. If you're talking about the 2019 and the 2020 versions of those players, sure. But when you're in your 30s, and I've talked to Warren Sapp about this, there's that 1 year, and you don't know when your expiration date is as an NFL player, but you just fall off the face of the earth. You're a fast receiver. All of a sudden, 1 year, you can't run anymore, right? You've been a quarterback for 10 years in the league. All of a sudden, you just can't put the zip on the ball like you used to, right? That happens, right? That's why you see running backs typically 30 and they're done because they just don't have the juice, the explosion anymore, the tackle breaking ability, the tackle slipping ability. And so with JPP and Sue, from the team standpoint, the last year, 2021, was the year those guys kind of fell off the cliff. And we'll see if that changes, but I don't think it's going to.
You just mentioned the two of them and Gronk. You only need one out of those three, and that's clearly it's Rob Gronkowski. And JPP's drop-off, I think, was a little more up front and like more noticeable and obvious than I would say Ndamukong Suh would be. And to Sue's detriment as well, I would say the Bucs do a very good job in terms of just rotating their defensive tackles and their outside linebackers as well, too.
Right.
Almost to a fault. I think there were times last year where we were complaining, like, why is Anthony Nelson and Cam Gill on the field as much as they are? And I don't want to knock Anthony Nelson too much because I thought he did a great job as that third outside linebacker. But there was a lot of times where it was like, I think Shaq should be on the field right now, or I think Joe Tryon-Schenker should be on the field, but they stick to their rotation. So we're talking about Sue. If he was already on a little bit of a pitch count, and we actually talked about that with Casey Rogers in terms of Vita Vea. Is he going to play more? Because we want to see more Vita Vea. But again, if we're talking about Sue and maybe losing a step, if he's already on a bit of a more of a rotation than maybe other teams would really do with using their defensive tackles, that doesn't really help Sue's case. I still think he could be helpful to this team, but not for the price tag that he's looking for with that $9 million.
And folks, that's the other component in this. And Matt, you're exactly right. He's 35. He's got a wife and a couple kids, twins at home.
Yep.
He's already got one eye on the financial world where I think he's going to end up ruling, doing whatever he wants to do there.
Yeah.
It's just that he looks at it like, I've had 6 sacks the last couple of seasons. I can still play. And of course, a lot of NFL players still think they can play. They need the league to tell them you're done. Because a lot of these guys still, they love playing the game. They love the camaraderie. They love the teamwork. They love the paycheck. But sometimes the league has to tell you, sorry, you're done. And we haven't seen any other team show any interest in Ndamukong Suh. Certainly not at $9 million. And I'm not sure that's his price tag.
Yeah,
that's what he's asking for. But it has been that the last 3 years. So why wouldn't it be this year? And of course, the Buccaneers are saying no. Even at $5 million, is that the magic number? I don't know. I'm not sure. Long Lost Leisure has got a great question as pertains to Logan Hall. How many 6'6" 3-techs have been successful? Well, the first one that comes to mind, and I'd have to really do some research in it, but Keith Millard, he was a 3-tech for the Minnesota Vikings. I want to say he was a first-round pick in 1984. I think he's in the Hall of Fame now, right? I mean, I think he's a Hall of Famer. Multiple Pro Bowl and All-Pro player for sure. But, he was 6'6", 265, which back in the day, that was massive for a 3-tech. So, usually when you think of 3 technique, you think of somebody that replaced him in Minnesota, like John Randall, who's like 6 foot 6'1", or Warren Sapp, who was 6'2". But yeah, it's a little, a little different in terms of that. But the thing is from an athleticism standpoint, I mean, Logan Hall killed it. And even Greg Cosell, who's been on the show before, NFL Films maven, he came out and said that he thought that Logan Hall was the best defensive tackle in the draft, ahead of even Devontae Wyatt from Georgia. And I agree with that. I think that you look at the production, the upside, the length, and the athletic testing. Logan Hall, I think, is a very underrated defensive tackle that if he had stayed in school, Matt, and had gotten 8 sacks, 9 sacks in 2022 during this college football season, I think you're looking at a player who's probably a top 10 pick.
It's always interesting to me when players that come out early, like what goes into their decision-making process. I'm about to post article Scott was talking about with Cassell mentioning Logan Hall, that he's the best pick. So look at it in the chat. But I always wonder, especially like when you make the decision to come out of your school to go to the NFL draft, you're obviously not going blindly going into the draft being like, oh, yep, I'm going to be the number 1 pick.
Right.
Like there was a lot of other defensive tackles in this class. And I mean, we saw that's why Logan Hall went to the 2nd round. So
yeah,
I'm always curious why, like what the reasoning is behind that when like, all right, you might not even get there to the 2nd round. But to your point, I mean, that's what Jason Licht was talking about. SpyTech mentioned they want Hall in there because of his size. Like they want him batting down balls, which was something obviously Hall is going to be playing defensive tackle where JPP is more of an edge rusher type of player. But one of the things JPP was pretty good at was getting his hand up and knocking down that ball. So I think Logan Hall can really help out there. I'm interested to see just like right off the bat, like where he's going to be good at in this defense. I know like we've seen the tape and okay, he's got that good first step and everything like that.
Sure.
Like, where's he really going to excel at now at the NFL level? And like, where's he really going to struggle? You mentioned the run game, but maybe it's, he can't get that swim move across. I think it's so fun to see with these rookies, like who's going to take the water right away and who's going to have more of that, that learning curve that some players need.
Yeah. And, you mentioned the batted balls. And I mean, let's go back to week 2, right? Vita didn't get a sack against Matt Ryan, but he deflected a pass that was ultimately picked off by Shaq Barrett, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a way you can impact that. It's not a sack, but on 3rd down, on 3rd and 7, you bat the ball down. It's an incompletion. All of a sudden, you're punting. So mission accomplished. And I think that's one thing Casey Rogers said. 6'6" Logan Hall, 6'7" Anthony Nelson, 6'5" Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, 6'4" Vita Vea, 6'6" Will Golston. They got some monsters up front that if they can each get a couple more pass breakups, it can lead to more interceptions. It could lead to more punts. It could get the opposing team's offense off the field and then get Tom Brady and the offense in Tampa Bay the ball back. Mark's main channel's got a great point here, Matt. And I think this is kind of where they saw the decline of Sue as well, because they do like to do some stunts and some twists up front. Hall's already good at bending inside, getting skinny into a crease. He'll do fine setting up potential stunts with JTS, in my opinion. And I think that's where a younger player can really help impact the Bucs defense here is, did Sue have the motor to get around and come clean on some of those stunts, right? And listen, I love Ndamukong Suh. I'm not trying to besmirch his name or his ability as a player whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm kind of passing along some information. That's our job at Pewter Report, is information procurement about telling you why the team is moving on from Ndamukong Suh and getting Logan Ryan into that starting role. I'm not the one who's not re-signing Ndamukong Suh. Neither are you, Matt. I'm not the one who's saying Logan Hall is going to be the starter at the 3 technique. It's the Buccaneers.
Yeah, and we'll see what Tampa Bay. I mean, we know what Tampa Bay wants in terms of they want that quick, that quick younger defensive tackle that's going to go in there and make a difference. But I think you can mix having the younger guys, and I think we're going to see this at corner, at edge rusher as well too. You can have the younger guys that are still learning the game, like someone like Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, but you could bring in a veteran that can maybe lost a step, but not to the point that Ndamukong Suh has lost a step. If that makes total sense.
Well,
like
and the thing is,
that guy's going to be a mentor.
I think if you're saying, hey, we want you to go in and play 12 plays, 12 to 15 snaps, right? I think that's where you can get an older aging player. We saw there was Steve McClendon, right, who had an interception, his first career pick last year, right? Playing a couple of snaps, in each half, and just helping out from a depth standpoint, right? Because when you're old, I mean, trust me, folks, I'm there. I got my friggin' AARP card. Like, I just turned 50 and I just got my AARP card in the mail. Those bastards don't waste any time sending you that AARP membership card, which is going right in the trash, by the way. But the thing is yeah, it's like, your ability to to get in there and play 20, 30 snaps, you can't do that when you're in your mid 30s, right? But you can maybe play half that, maybe 10 snaps, maybe 6 snaps a half, where all of a sudden you're playing 12 to 20 snaps, and you're helping the team out with some of those quality reserve reps while you're getting the starters a rest on the sidelines and then getting them back in the game.
Speaking of help, if you need help with your finances, there is no better place to go to than Amuni Financial.
At Amuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you? Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it. All right. Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track, so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Amuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Matt, where in the world do we need to go?
We absolutely, positively need to go to Colorado.
That's right. And the thing is, wow, listen, a Colorado vacation would be fun. But how fun would it be, Matt, once you and I are retired, to like go out there and do some hunting and fishing for like a whole week, or like a 10-day trip or something, right? To up there at Pikes Peak and all of that.
Some whitewater rafting.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe if we're retired, that might be a little ambitious. But but the thing is, folks, is that's the kind of stuff that you want to be able to do. Not just a little weekend trip here or whatever, but really enjoy your retirement. Really be able to see the great sights of this country and around the world with some of those lifelong trips. And how do you save the money to put yourself in position in retirement to be able to enjoy your retirement? Well, that's where Amuni Financial comes in, because managing your family's wealth means more to Amuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. We're talking about legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts, and insurance services. They've got 40 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, folks. And if you're listening or watching this podcast from around the country, they can still help you. It's not just a Tampa thing, folks, or even a Florida thing. Give Amuni Financial a call, just like I did. 1-800-868-6864. That's 1-800-868-6864. Or visit them on the web at Amuni.com. Folks, Amuni's been a great supporter of the Pewter Report podcast. What I ask you to do is give them a call, talk to Mark, talk to David, talk to any of the great Amuni representatives. It's a free, no obligation, no pressure consultation. And if you don't like what you hear, that's fine. There's no obligation to do anything with Amuni. But it's not a bad thing, even if you have a financial advisor, to get a second opinion. Because, folks, this is your money. This is your retirement.
Yes, thank you, Amuni Financial, for being a sponsor of the Pewter Report podcast. Make sure you give them a call and get out to Colorado as well, too.
That's right.
Because I really want to go to Colorado so badly. I like going out west. I think it's a fun time, and that would be great to go to Colorado. Looking at the defense here, Scott, we just talked a little bit about defensive tackle. You love Hakeem Hicks. I mentioned Larry Ogunjobi. I think Sheldon Richardson would be another guy that could be a fit as well, too.
Todd Bowles knows him well, right?
Yep. Previously played in Todd Bowles' system for at least 2 years. But I'm going to talk about someone that also previously played for Todd Bowles. I'm talking about edge rusher now. We spoke a little bit about Clowney and how he's probably going to be too expensive. He's like the top edge rusher off the board. I really like Justin Houston. I thought he could have been that great veteran presence, older in age, played on some good teams, but never won a Super Bowl. If I remember correctly, I think he'd be a great, like, all right, let's throw him in on third down here and there.
I agree.
But a couple of days ago, May 2nd to be exact, the Ravens put a tender on him, and I don't think the Bucs should, sign that tender. But we're talking about reunions, players that used to play for Todd Bowles. Carl Nassib is a free agent. A lot of people in the chat have mentioned Carl Nassib. I would like a reunion with Carl Nassib.
Yeah.
I feel bad that he just left the year before that they won the Super Bowl. He obviously is a fit. He's played in this defense. He has an extremely high motor,
Chuck
goes
Nasty.
all out all
Yep.
the time. He was a captain of this team, so he's already knows the locker room very well. And obviously people look up to him because he was a captain on this team. I think as far as being the fourth outside linebacker on this team, you could throw him in there from time to time. You know he's going to play a backup role because he's a team player and a team captain. He's going to be fine with the role that he has on this team.
Yeah.
I would love to see Carl Nassib back with the Bucs.
I agree. And again, if you're just joining us, what this list is here, everybody in red is slated to start. Everybody in pewter, that's going to be what we believe to be the number 2 player on the depth chart. The pewter guys we're comfortable with, right? They're veterans. They've played either in Tampa Bay or, as you see down there in the secondary, Logan Ryan. We expect he will be the nickel backup, as well as another guy that can play free safety for Antoine Winfield. Keanu Neal is a veteran who can probably either win the starting job or be one hell of a rotational backup at strong safety. But the guys in blue, we talked about Cam Gill, we talked about Deidrin Sanat, even Patrick O'Connor. I love POC. I think you do too. But
yeah, I love him.
He's a great special teamer. But if Will Golston were to go down for an extended period of time, I'm not sure Patrick O'Connor would be a guy that I'd want to be a down in, down out starter for weeks on end. That's why a player like Akeem Hicks could come in and I think help at a couple positions. But the linebacker spot now, right? I mean,
yeah,
Kevin Minter, I understand why they haven't re-signed him. But boy, KJ Britt, Grant Stewart, I love those guys in special teams. They're really unproven on defense. And if something happens to Devin White or Levante David, I can't say that they would be worse than Kevin Minter, but boy, there's an awful lot of greenness in those two guys, man.
Yeah, they fall into that situation again, too, like we talked about with the corners, where it's like, all right, well, we want to see what we have in them, but it's a major risk that we're going to give them this playing time.
Yeah.
We've heard some of the defensive coaches talk about it, that they're already talking with and training KJ Britt like he's going to be that number 3 wide receiver. I think almost the most.
You mean the number 3 linebacker?
Yeah, sorry, linebacker. Looking at a lot of positions here.
Yeah.
But I think almost the most telling thing was speaking to Keith Armstrong, the special teams coach, where we asked him about if Minter's not on this team. And remember, Minter was a special teams captain, so he obviously played an important role on the Bucs roster. If he's not back, could Britt and Stewart step up into those roles as being a leader on special teams? And Armstrong said Grant Stewart without question. I think that's obvious because the way he played on special teams last year. But he said Britt, I don't even really know if he's going to be playing special teams because the way that they're training him to be not a starting linebacker, but at least the number 3 linebacker. So I tend to lean towards let's give the young guys an opportunity. I know Kevin Minter struggled, and I'm not trying to put a knock on Kevin Minter because he's awesome and he's given some great interviews for us.
Again, you reach a point in time. It happens to every NFL player, even the great ones. Saw it happen with Derek Brooks, right? With Warren Sapp, John Lynch. It just happens, right? You're just done at some point in time. And I think that's, that's what happened to Minter. And that's why they're going with the young guy in KJ Britt. I agree with you, Matt. There's still some more questions about James Bradberry here. And yes, I agree that there is some merit to going for it like the Rams did and gearing up for that Super Bowl run and saying, Jamel Dean, you might have to, to take a back seat and go for Bradberry, especially with what happened last year, Matt. I mean, we look at these guys here. Zion McCollum wasn't on the team. I like him as a developmental guy. He hasn't played it down in the NFL. D. Delaney has. He started 2 games. Pierre Desir started 2 games. Richard Sherman started a couple games because there were so many injuries at the cornerback position. Would you rather have Jamel Dean come off the bench if something happens to Carlton Davis or to James Bradberry and have him be your emergency corner, right? As opposed to D. Delaney or trying to find the next Pierre Desir or Richard Sherman?
Yeah, you know what, Scott? The more I think about it, the more I'm all in on Bradbury because I just think, again, this is your last year with Tom Brady. Why not leave any stone unturned, uncovered, or whatever it's called? And sure, yeah, maybe Jamel Dean might not like it, but this is the NFL. It's a business. Teams, you need to win in this league, and you can't win in this league if you're just going to cater to players' feelings. I understand this is an extremely important season for Jamel Dean, and you know what? If Jamel Dean has a problem with James Bradbury being on this team, he can earn the starting job in training.
Beat him
camp,
out.
All right,
Yeah.
He's going to have every single chance to prove himself, and you know what? If Jamel Dean is the number 3 cornerback and he's not happy with it going into free agent this year, Dean is still way talented enough where another team is going to give him a contract. This isn't like the Ndamukong Suh situation where people have seen the tape and he's getting slower. There's still a lot of optimism on Jamel Dean. So
it might be a thing too. Right. I mean, I hear what you're saying. It might be a thing too where Jamel Dean decides to come back to Tampa next year if the Bucs just pay him money. It's just say, go out and get your market value.
Yeah.
And see what it is. You already know this defense. You're comfortable here. Yeah, we had to take a 1-year Jamel Dean break and went with James Bradbury to win a Super Bowl. But we're moving on from Bradbury because he's too expensive. We'd rather invest in you. You're the younger corner.
And the Bucs played the corner market to a T this year with Carlton Davis. Remember how everyone was up in arms that they didn't give the franchise tag to Carlton Davis?
Right.
Well, it was a pretty damn good decision not to, because they were able to keep Chris Godwin for way undervalued compared to what all the other wide receivers are getting this year. And they got Carlton Davis for cheaper than what you would have done if you signed him to the franchise tag, I believe. Or at least they got him to a cheaper deal than what some of the other corners are getting. So the Bucs should absolutely do what they need to do to make sure that they have the best roster possible. And if that means Jamel Dean becomes CB3, so be it. He still has a chance to be on this team next year. He's still valuable.
That's interesting. I think Mike Greenberg would probably have a conniption fit over that, given the money they'd have to pay Bradbury. He might take objection to that, but at the same time, from a personnel standpoint, putting the salary cap aside and the dollars and cents, it does make sense, right? Let's take a quick look here as the show wraps up at our 2D depth chart as we see it. This is not official, but this is how we see it for the Bucs offense. You have QB1A and QB1B right there in Tom Brady and Blaine Gabbert. We're deferring to the old man, Tom Brady. He gets the first, he gets the red, and we'll have Blaine and Pewter.
He's earned
it. Okay. I kid, of course. Running back, I'm not sold on Keyshawn Vaughn, and Matt, it seems like they're not sold on Keyshawn Vaughn either, because they drafted Rachaad White in the 3rd round, which is where they drafted Keyshawn Vaughn a couple years ago. We haven't seen Rachaad White play a down yet in the NFL. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up beating out Vaughn for the backup job, but right now he's probably the backup to Giovanni Bernard as that 3rd down running back, even though Leonard Fournette will play on 3rd downs as well. But just wanted to give, I think they're done there, right? I mean, they didn't sign any undrafted free agent running backs. So I think they're really comfortable with these 4 guys, just like they're comfortable at quarterback with Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask and Ryan Griffin, right? This we can kind of write off those 2 positions and go right into wide receiver, correct?
Agreed. It's going to be up to Keyshawn Vaughn if he wants to stay on this team again. He's going to have to impress in training camp, and that's why he drafted Rachaad White. All right, you already have the veteran there with Giovanni Bernard. You don't need to sign another running back in free agency unless unless an injury comes along the way. You're pretty much all set with running back. It's Leonard Fournette's job, and we'll see what Rachaad White can do this year.
Right.
Bernard obviously will be the 3rd down back.
Wide receiver, different position. Right now, I've got Brashard Perryman just based on the Buffalo game, what he's done in the past. He knows this offense. He's not an ideal starter, but I think he can help in a pinch. So I've given him the pewter rather than the blue ink on this depth chart. Tyler Johnson, though, is that slot receiver, the backup to Chris Godwin. I think he is not a lock to make the team. Neither is Scotty Miller. Neither is Jalen Darden, who I don't even have on this depth chart with Scotty Miller as well. I think Cyril Grayson is, based on what he did, that Panthers game, the Jets game when he stepped up for Antonio Brown with the game-winning catch. I think this team's curious about him. They want to see more of him. Can he stay healthy? Can he really produce? Can he be that 4th wide receiver? Maybe compete with Brashard Perriman there? That might be the case. But, Matt, they did sign 3 wide receivers after the draft, including the number 1 and 2 wide receiver in terms of catches last year and yards in Jareth Stearns and Devin Tompkins from Utah State.
Scott, I don't know if I'm crazy or not, but the wide receiver that I'm probably highest on outside of, the big three of Evans, Godwin, and Russell Gage, I think it's Cyril Grayson Jr. for the mere fact that his stock is the highest based on, like you said, what he did late in the season against the Panthers and against the Jets. Like, he obviously got injured after and wasn't able to play in the postseason, but his stock is the highest by the way that he performed. It's interesting because Casey Hudson and I talked about this a lot on Thursday's show when we did a Bucs fan question Q&A, and a lot of questions were brought up about the wide receiver room. And part of why Casey didn't love the draft that the Bucs did was because they didn't address the wide receiver position. And we've all talked about how depth at wide receiver was an issue last year with all the injuries. And yes, you signed Russell Gage, but remember, you're losing Antonio Brown. So essentially,
you're not gaining anything. You're just replacing somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. He's replacing Antonio Brown just in terms of a player on the roster, not skill set. They have different skill sets. We're not comparing that. But outside of that, they signed Rashad Perriman. He was on the team last year. So we're talking about essentially having the same wide receivers group back that they had last year. So how much of an upgrade, how much of a change should they really have? You're pretty much keeping
and really
the same players that were there.
And all you're adding Stearns from Western Kentucky, who is kind of a mighty might type player. You're adding Devin Tompkins, who's faster than Stearns, not as big. He's like 167. Stearns is about 179. But both these guys are literally 5'7". I think these are mighty might type players, kind of in the Jalen Darden role, and we'll see if either one of these guys can win a spot on the roster. They might be practice squad players, or they might not be good enough to make the team. But it is interesting how they added 3 receivers. The Texas Tech kid is another one. I like Stearns and Tompkins better. We'll see how it all shakes out, and we'll get a chance to look at him this week in the rookie minicamp, as well as Cade Otton and Co Keefe. The Bucs did double up at tight end, but right now, folks, that picture on your screen, that's Rob Gronkowski. I think he will be a free agent addition to the team. I think that will be a very happy day in Tampa Bay when he does decide to come back. I'm hoping that's the case. The Bucs are too. I think it won't be until after. It'll either be right before the mandatory minicamp, or it'll be before training camp. I think that's the window for Gronk to come back. It might even be later this summer. But right now, Cam Brate, your starter, that's not really good with Cade Otton, who is obviously very green, hasn't played a down in the NFL. The team's high on him, 4th round pick. I think he's got a chance to be maybe tight end 2 this year if he has a good training camp. What do you say, Matt?
Yeah, I say the bright side is if Gronk isn't back, that there's still a lot of veteran tight ends out there that you could sign, and I think you would feel confident with them being on the roster and having a formidable tight end group. Maybe not, the best in the league.
Yeah.
Gronk,
I'll stop you real quick. Sure. I think too that they could go more 3 wide receiver sets, right? 1 tight end, and probably do away with a lot of 12 personnel packages, which is double tight ends. I think they can always do that. They can always bring in another offensive lineman. We've seen the Buccaneers in the past. Bring in an extra tackle and have that be the blocking tight end. I mean, Keefe can also block too. I don't want to knock Keefe, but
he'll be the blocking guy. I still think at the end of the day, like if I was going to put money on it, I would say Gronk is back. But I don't feel as confident as I once did. Just because, again, he doesn't need to play. He has everything else in the world. And I understand, like, coming back, playing with Tom. I'm sure Tom is, has been nudging him. Come on, man. Like, when are you coming back? I see Gronk returning ultimately, but I don't think it'll be before training camp. Like, you think he wants to sign, then immediately go to practice with mandatory minicamp? Yeah. Like, I know he's been staying in shape, but I'm sure he wants a little bit more time to, there's working out, then there's working out in the Florida heat. And I understand it's only May versus when training camp comes around to late July and August, but I'm sure Gronk's going to want a little bit more time to
party.
To party and get ready and stuff like that.
And folks, just to wrap up here, we've got Hainsey and Leverett in there as blue guys rather than Pewter because Stinney's got the experience. I think this is Gadecki's job to lose at left guard. If if he's not quite ready, then you'll see Stinney in there at the beginning of the season. But they like Hainsey a lot as the backup center. I think this team still likes Nick Leverett, but I think they're done on the offensive line. I don't think they're bringing anybody else. They brought in Fred Johnson, right? They re-signed Josh Wells. They drafted Gadecki. They're stocked at guard and center, and a player like Leverett can also play center as well. You've got John Molchin still on the team. You've got Sedarius Hutcherson, who's coming back. So they're obviously done there at the offensive line position.
Yeah.
And I like the depth. I think it's probably as deep along the offensive line as we've seen in Tampa Bay.
I thought the Bucs were going to be done before. I thought they were all set before they even drafted Luke Gadecki. So I think they're all set there. A lot of beef on that offensive line, almost as much beef as a burger that you'll get at Beef O Brady's.
You want beefy? Nobody out-beefs beefs. Try the O Brady Burger, made with premium Angus perfectly seasoned and topped with melted provolone. It's an all-star, just like that other Brady in town. And if you're tailgating, you might want to pile on Beef's award-winning wings, too. Traditional or boneless in whatever sauce or dry rub you crave. Dine in, to go, or even catering. Play it your way. See you at Beef's.
Oh, Matt, what do you think about that burger, man?
I want one right now. Like, we need to stop the show immediately, and I want to have that burger for dinner. Beef O Brady's is a great place to go to throughout the entire year on the calendar, but it's even more important to go now because of all the great things going on. You got playoff hockey, another big win for the Bolts last night. You got playoff basketball. You just had the Kentucky Derby and some big UFC fights and some boxing matches. And the reason for that is because not only does Beef O Brady's have a fantastic menu, as you see there with the burger, as you'll get with the wings, as you'll get with the nachos, not only do they have an exceptional variety of beers and other drinks and assortments that you can get at Beef O Brady's, but they have TVs on top of TVs on top of TVs.
Yeah.
So you can go there during football season, get a great meal, watch the Bucs game. You can go there right now, watch some playoff hockey, watch some playoff basketball. They have something there for literally every single person that steps into their restaurant. And there's going to be a Beef O Brady's near you because there's over 45 locations in the Tampa Bay area. So Beef O Brady's, go to beefobradys.com to see their entire menu. But as I mentioned, the beer, the wings, the burgers, everything is great. Beef O Brady's, good food, good sports. Make sure you go to one near you because 45 locations, there is one near you.
There's no doubt about it. And folks, that was a fun, fast show here for Monday. We appreciate everybody participating in Roll Call. We'll do it again next Monday. Remember, schedule this week, tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern time. We're going to have the assistant coaches on. Then we're going to have Thursday night, primetime show, 7:30 start. NFL schedule comes out. We're going to be having instant analysis about the Bucs schedule Thursday night. So join us in a special primetime podcast, 7:30 Eastern. Then right back at you Friday night, 7:30 Eastern time. We're going to wrap up first day of Bucs rookie minicamp. It's an afternoon practice. So we're going to have our stories up on pewterreport.com. Then jump on the podcast, answer your questions. It's going to be a fun week here on Pewter Report. So make sure you're subscribing to Pewter Report TV. It's our YouTube channel. And hit the like button. Folks, what that does, you hit the like button, helps our algorithm with YouTube and puts us in front of more Buccaneer fans like you. We love Pewter people. Matt, I think we're closing in on 8,300. We're on our way to 9,000 subscribers. I want to thank everybody who's subscribed and encourage you, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you head over to YouTube and go to Pewter Report TV and hit subscribe.
That's right. We can't thank everyone enough for subscribing, for liking. You're helping us grow the YouTube channel and just all of our content here at Pewter Report. So we really appreciate it. So for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll catch you again tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another episode of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.
God bless.
Have a great week.